Okay, a very, very warm welcome to our guests, colleagues, and our students. My name is Washington Yoto Ochieng. I'm the current head of the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering here at Imperial College London. It is my pleasure to serve as the chair of this evening's event and to welcome you to our department and to our departmental inaugural lecture by our Professor of Practice, Atula Abeysekera. At Imperial, the title of Professor of Practice is reserved for an individual who has achieved national and international standing and has demonstrated leadership in the subject or profession by outstanding contributions to its advancement and/or significant contributions to the mission of the college. Professors of practice excel in one or more of the areas of education, leadership, and management, and profession and practice. Atula excels in all three. So whether you're here in person or joining us online, you're very welcome, and thank you very much for attending. So let me now introduce our speaker. It is a very interesting story. I've obviously learned a lot in the time that I've spent crafting this. So Atula was born in London, but for some reason decided to go and get educated in Sri Lanka. He graduated with a master's degree in engineering here at Imperial College, and then he joined Mott MacDonald, where he became a chartered civil engineer. But he tells me that he felt something was missing. Now, this is interesting, that he needed a different perspective to balance his engineering knowledge. So as you do, he decided to study for and become a chartered accountant. So he has been in investment banking at Lazards and Morgan Stanley, and for 13 years at Schroders, which is the largest fund manager in the UK, managing over 750 billion pounds. And for that reason, he's currently still with them as their senior risk officer. He was awarded the Freedom of the City of London for his contribution to financial services. And then Atula came back to Imperial on a part-time basis as a professor of practice in our department. This was the first such appointment in the department's 144-year history. He was awarded the Fellowship of the City and Guilds Institute for contribution to the development of next generation of leaders. Atula has been helping us and our students develop critical thinking in engineering and the art of solving problems and assessing risk. He is a member of the advisory board of our Center for Systems Engineering and Innovation. And over the last 2 years, he was the president of the City and Guilds College Association. Now, this is a 3,500 strong alumni organization of engineers who have graduated from our Faculty of Engineering here at Imperial College. Atula says that this enriched his connection with Imperial and his passion for engineering because he got back, or he came back to his roots. Recently, he started to write about and lecture on risk management also outside Imperial. And amongst many other things, he's serving under the chair of Dame Judith Hackett, who is with us today, on the steering group set up to hold the many industry stakeholders to account for delivering a culture change which was needed following the Grenfell tragedy. Atula also served as a non-executive director of Thomas Telford Limited, the commercial arm of the Institution of Civil Engineers, for 10 years. He is a visiting professor at Universidad de Navarra in Spain. So as you've heard, Atula has had a very, very interesting life so far, but there is more to come. We will also be hearing about that in a few minutes' time. So it gives me great pleasure it is my absolute pleasure to invite our Professor of Practice, Atula Abeysekera, to step up and deliver his departmental inaugural lecture.
Good evening. I am honored to be here today talking to you about thoughts on some key issues in the world right now and about how engineering thinking could help fix them. But that comes later. First of all, some thank yous. Thanks to the Faculty of Engineering at Imperial College, led by Professor Nigel Brandon, for so generously helping to host this event. Thanks to Professor Washington Ocheng for chairing this session and for his kind introduction. He is an eminent voice in systems engineering and innovation. Thanks to my organizing team at the Department of Civil Engineering, Jenny, Tim, Lucy, and Lindsay Ann. Thanks to Schroders, who have informed and shaped my thinking over the last 13 years. And thanks to my students here at Imperial for being so full of energy, questions, and insights. And finally, thanks to Imperial College for being so influential and vital part of my life. When I was asked to prepare for this speech, I asked, what exactly do you want from me? Ah, said the chair, with a twinkle in his eyes, something trailblazing, something that makes people think. Now, the term trailblazing originally meant marking forest trails by blazing marks on trees. Now, the Cambridge Dictionary defines as being the first to do something in a way that is an example for other people. So no pressure then. Let me start by talking about the way I think and the way I feel, not just what I know and have learned. I'm incurably curious about the world in which we live and about how, in my lifetime, things have got better, how we are better off and live longer and fitter, how technology has enriched us, and how we have opportunities to do even better, and how those opportunities can be grasped. But only if we engineer the ways to do that. I'm an optimist who believes, like Winston Churchill, who said, the pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. As a problem solver, you have got to be an optimist to believe anything, give or take, is possible. Nassim Taleb, the author of The Black Swan, The Impact of Highly Improbable, said, when people's lives were supported by only weak evidence, it was hard for them to change their minds. He added, they have difficulty in interpreting information that contradicts their opinions, even if this new information is obviously more accurate. I like this because it underpins my own belief that too many decisions are made on the basis of ideology without referring to evidence. Evidence, be it preconceptions every time. So let's get started. I have called this talk, How to Engineer a Better World. It is not a commercial for the engineering profession. But I'm encouraged that the engineering is getting a good press right now. Matthew Syed wrote about the importance of engineering in the Sunday Times recently. He said, "We need a new approach. And this means recruiting world-class engineers and scientists to the highest echelons of state." I agree. But isn't it ironic that only 27 have science degrees in the House of Commons of 650 members? Isn't it strange that in the top 25 countries in the world, just 3 leaders have science or engineering degrees, 2 of them from Africa, including Kenya? And isn't it bizarre that in the last 2 centuries, we have had just 1 science graduate as the Prime Minister in the United Kingdom? But why does engineering matter more than ever right now? Because the essence of engineering is about creating concepts and designs, and then planning and delivering their construction so that they really work in the real world. It is this thinking that underpins all engineering, that it makes it so important. This thinking discipline of engineering is understanding how all elements of a project interlink and how to transform a concept into a resilient system. So my personal challenge is to make this definition of engineering thinking or systems thinking one that is more widely understood and appreciated. Having moved from engineering to finance, I grew to understand that it was engineering that had shaped my thinking, how it had helped me to calibrate risk and understand how to manage it. I also learned that operating without seeking collaborations of finance aren't really proper engineers at all. A good example of this is the Tideway project, which is one of the largest infrastructure projects currently in progress in Europe, due to be completed by 2025. The project is being delivered by a special purpose vehicle, Bazalgette Tunnel Limited, to finance, build, maintain, and operate a 25-kilometer super sewer under the Thames. Thames Water's decision to create a separate entity to deliver the project has had an important influence on attracting debt and equity investors for this project. So far, by using engineering thinking, this project has delivered benefits right through the project's lifespan. There are 3 specific pillars through which engineering comes to life. Pillar 1 is about creating better dialogues. With the owners of projects, the investors, those who define a business model. With secondly, the engineers who deliver the project to the highest quality, applying innovative cost-saving ideas and planning so as to complete on time. And thirdly, with policymakers like ministers or leaders of councils who set goals, regulations, and budget parameters. My most recent experience of the value of such dialogue was when I introduced a team from our Department of Civil Engineering to Schroders real estate team, a division of Schroders which manages $45 billion globally. Similarly, I introduced the industry safety steering group to Schroders. In both instances, I was gratified how much common ground the engineers had with investors. The investors spoke openly about the value of systems thinking, the need to train leaders as to how these can shape the world in facing numerous challenges. My pillar 2 of engineering thinking is innovation. Innovation so you do things better, faster, and cheaper. The government-funded UK Innovation Survey of 2021 concluded the goal of boosting investment in R&D to 2.4% of the GDP by 2027 was unlikely to happen. They said R&D investment as a percentage of GDP has remained almost constant over the last 2 decades, increasing from 1.6% in 2000 to 1.7% in 2018. We have to change this if the UK is to become the leader of innovation that it has the potential to be. My third pillar of engineering thinking is data, in particular about sharing data. At Schroders, we say, if you can't measure, you can't improve. Having data provides benchmarks and shows us how to reduce risk. Data allows us to navigate. Imagine going on a long car journey without a sat-nav. Everything we do forms our experience. It's the rigor in which this has been done, which has led to flying being the safest form of travel. Incidentally, the aerospace industry, the business of flying planes, has pioneered the creation of systems and cultures that enable organizations to learn from errors rather than being threatened by them. So ask to see the data, study it, and see if anything needs questioning. Engineers have always been good at sharing ideas. The need for speed and scale in this data-rich environment has never been greater. Engineering has never been better served. And engineering, accordingly, has never served better results. So let's move on to considering just some of the global challenges we face. As I see it, there are 3 main challenges that we are currently grappling with. Number 1, the climate change challenge. Number 2, the population change issue. And number 3, the issues facing a digital world. I will discuss how we can use engineering thinking to engineer a better world. And more, I will address the opportunities offered by dialogue, education, innovation, and data. And at the end, I'm going to outline specifically the opportunities offered for Imperial College to solve these challenges. The first challenge, the climate change. In an address to the United Nations on its 40th anniversary in 1989, Margaret Thatcher, then Prime Minister, said, every country will be affected. No one can opt out. We should work to agree worldwide ways to cope with the effects of climate. Roll back 33 years. One of the biggest changes is investors' relentless appetite for sustainable and responsible investments. In the investment community, these are called ESG, where each investment opportunity is based on a systematic inclusion of environmental, social, and governance factors in their financial analysis. According to the Global Sustainability Investment Alliance, direct and indirect sustainable investments in 2020 reached $35.3 trillion. That is amazing. It's more than a third of all assets under management by investment companies. The world is waking up to the fact that our global economy must become not just net zero, but net positive. Heat waves and other extreme weather events are reminding us of the fragility of our natural environment. The built environment emits close to 40% of the carbon. To increase funding to succeed in decarbonizing requires significant investment from governments and effective public and private partnerships. The natural capital, the world's stock of natural resources, which includes forestry and other land use, contributes 22% of the global emissions, half of which is caused by deforestation and land conversion. So how can we accelerate the progress towards net zero? My first action, by speeding up the planning regime. We all know initiatives usually take too long to happen. Yet, for instance, the performance and the speed of the UK's vaccination program showed how this could be changed by collaboration and the will to speed up in the face of a catastrophe. A key place to apply better systems thinking is in our cities. That's where half the population live. We need to promote planning with better spaces, taking account of human well-being. And we need to build resilient cities, able to withstand shocks of extreme weather. Frighteningly, 25% of the world's port cities are at risk of severe coastal flooding. This would affect 250 million people. My next action is improving collaboration. How? Through effective dialogue among stakeholders. This requires an outcome-based systems approach to delivering on major infrastructure projects. A set of common language amongst all stakeholders, investors, engineers, and policymakers, so that they all better understand the common goals. We also need to have a financing structure so that the global south is not left behind by the global north. And my final action is about obtaining good data. We have made good progress in measuring carbon using proprietary models and sources from other data providers. Carbon disclosure in annual company reports has been an effective innovation too. However, we don't yet have widely accepted quantification methodology to measure investment benefits from natural capital? Not yet. The second challenge is about population change. When we talk about population change, the focus is often on the aging population, their needs, their health, their well-being, and their living spaces. What gets less attention is the decline in the total global fertility rate. According to the United Nations, the global fertility rates are in general decline. This trend is most pronounced in industrialized countries, especially in the USA and Western Europe, where the indigenous populations are projected to decline dramatically over the next 50 years. Today, 2/3 of the global population live in a country where the fertility rate is below 2.1 births per woman. That's roughly the level required for zero growth in the long run for a population with low mortality. But be aware, the assessment of demographical change is global. The politics of demography can be, of course, be very local to individual countries. For instance, according to the United Nations, 46 least developed areas are among the world's fastest growing populations. Many are projected to double in population by 2050, posing significant pressure on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So the overall population birth rate is falling steeply. It peaked a half a century ago, reaching a high of 2.1% in 1960s. Since then, it has been halved to just over 1%. During the lockdown, statisticians predicted a surge in the birth rates. In fact, the reverse happened. With this backdrop, how do we use engineering thinking skills to face this challenge? In the UK, the big number is this. The number of over 65-year-olds is growing rapidly, and by the middle of the century will be the same as the number of under 25-year-olds. Yet, we have no independent body like the Office of Budget Responsibility to study this. If an Office of Demographic Change were created, it could assess the impact on the built environment. How much investment is needed to bring it up to date to the required standards? The need to reconcile declining birth rates with increasing longevity of life will lead to huge economic challenges. And we need to face up to it. And my final challenge is what we face in a world more reliant on AI. The digital revolution is still in its infancy, but the technology has already transformed our lives, mostly for the better. The new waves of technologies based on artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, virtual reality, health data will profoundly impact our lives even more strongly. Data and digital technology will be part of the answer to the increasing better solutions to the wider population, especially who live in the cities. Intelligence and proprietary models may create digital divides in the name of competitive advantage, But I strongly believe that better dialogue to share these would leapfrog innovation, creates benefits from existing and new technologies. To the wider public, self-driving cars to robots may help day-to-day life. But these are just only beginning. Many more life-changing innovations are on the way. These will bring great opportunities, but will introduce new risks. The European Commission is proposing a first global legal framework for artificial intelligence to ensure fundamental rights of peoples and businesses are protected when developing AI. They propose introducing a risk-based metrics to guide developers in developing artificial intelligence tools. Incidentally, in passing, I want to talk about ADA, AIDA. ADA is the world's first ultra-realistic artist robot. She draws and paints using cameras in her eyes, her algorithms, and her robotic arms. She was presented to the Lord's Commission for Communications and Digital Development in October. The best thing, she went to sleep. And that is she turned off when it got a bit boring. A lesson to all politicians. The reality is this: technology alone will not change our lives. It's how we use technology and focus on its development that will. Max Tegmark is the author of Life 3.0. He is a Swedish-American physicist, cosmologist, machine learning researcher, and a professor at MIT. In it, he says, AI progress has the potential to improve our lives in many ways, but warns who think AI is taking over. He says, there is absolutely no guarantee that we will manage to build a human-level artificial general intelligence in our lifetime or ever. So how can Imperial College help address all these challenges? Well, like Martin Luther King, I have a dream. The Department of Civil Engineering at Imperial College was ranked #1 by the Guardian's Best University Guide and the Sunday Times Good University Guide. Arguably, it has the best engineering faculty in the world. My dream is that Imperial College Faculty of Engineering, possibly in collaboration with the Royal Academy of Engineering, kickstart the creation of an annual forum and an exhibition of high-level thinking involving senior thinkers from the 3 strategic pillars: finance, engineering, and policymakers. This problem-solving group's deliberations, if we pull this together in the way I hope we do, will be widely reported, widely respected, and widely influential. I am thinking of Davos for engineering, but with much more intellectual power. If we manage to establish this, engineering thinking will become much more widely used and understood. More importantly, this cross-functional group of thinkers will set a new trend in collaborative working. So that is my dream. A tangible, innovative initiative led by Imperial. Finally, here are some final thoughts on how we can personally improve our thinking and help engineer a better world. Rule number 1, think small. Think in manageable chunks. Break problems down into small segments. Thinking small, step by step, can lead to effective solutions to apparently insoluble problems. Rule number 2, think velocity. We are living in a fast-moving, integrated world, and it's moving faster. If we can't keep up with it, we shall fail. Rule number 3, think about resilience. It's a fact that the human bones get stronger when subjected to stress and tension. We need to build greater resilience into our infrastructure. Rule number 4, people are prone to talking about normal. Think radical. People are prone to talking about normal. In this current world, they say, when things get back to normal. Radical is the new normal. Rule number 5, think ambitiously. The biggest risk is not taking any risk at all. In a world that is changing quickly, not taking risks to achieve change and performance improvement is a strategy doomed to fail. And my final advice is think individuals, then local, then national, only then global. Build your thinking from the bottom up. Just thinking about the big picture can distract us from the most important thing: people. How they think, feel, and behave. It's the people with their annoying habits and wonderful imaginations and talents, not algorithms, who drive our world. And remember, the key is learning how to collaborate, not just compete. Time after time, the smartest people claim engineering is the real engine of change. I agree. So I want to conclude with a thought that makes me think and makes me laugh. To the optimist, the glass is half full. To the pessimist, the glass is half empty. To the engineer, the glass is in need of a complete redesign. Thank you.
I just want to offer you a vote of thanks on behalf of everyone in the room for that thought-provoking lecture this evening. I first met Atula about 10 years ago, actually here at Imperial College, when we were both speaking at a careers event to some young engineers, trying to offer them some thoughts on what they might do with their lives. And since then, we've become very firm friends. We meet regularly for lunch, and we plot how we would do things differently. So a lot of what you've heard tonight has had some of its origins in some of those brainstorms that Atula and I have had over those 10 years. When I completed my review of building safety and was asked to put together an industry safety steering group, that would bring people in from other sectors to hold the built environment sector to account for delivering culture change, there was no hesitation whatsoever in my mind that Atula should be part of that team. So 4 years ago, and along with some of his fellow Industry Safety Steering Group colleagues who are here this evening, we're still going strong. So I've witnessed Atula's journey into his role as a professor of practice in risk management here. And I've seen the enormous pleasure that he gets out of sharing his knowledge with young people. But tonight, his messages were to all of us, and they've been very clear. We all have a role to play in engineering a better world. You have certainly given us something to make us think. You are certainly an example to others. So we need to go away from here to create better dialogues, to think about innovation, to share data, to recognise those challenges around climate change, the changing population, and the world of AI. And I like very much your advice on how we do it. Think small, think velocity, resilience, be radical, be ambitious, and take it one step at a time. So it is my great pleasure to give this vote of thanks this evening, but I would suggest to all of you that the way that we can thank Atula the most is by taking heed of his messages and committing to take action to deliver on what he has asked us to do this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please join us upstairs on the second floor. Some refreshment. Thank you very much for coming, Sydney. Thank you.